I just fell into translation. Let me say that, as you all know, you need to be, your number one language has to be the language in which you translate. And very, very close to it has to be the language from which you translate. So, my sister, Mrs. Zahir, Zakia Zahir, is sitting here. She's been my fellow traveler and we have worked on a lot of projects together. But what helped me was that before I learnt English, I learned Urdu. Purely because parents insisted before you go to a school, you have to learn Urdu, and then I fell into the habit of reading Urdu novels, and the rest of it is history. So I read my Bengali literature because it was all translated in Urdu. So, you know, with all kinds of unusual names, like for some reason, Parinita was called Shami Zindagi. I don't know why it was called. Anyways, I read Parinita and it, you know, fluently. And the fun of it is when you read with the same facility as, you know, your first language. So let me say that I started off by translating Ismat Chugtai and did Lihaf, Quilt and Other Stories, famous Lihaf. And then I translated what was this book, which was short stories of women writers from the early 20th century to the mid-20th and to the late 20th centuries. Like people like Rashid Jahan, who was a fiery communist, and then people like Razia Sajjad Zahir, Hijab Imtiaz Ali, who was in the 1940s, she was a woman pilot, and then of course Qurratul Ain Haider. So this was a little compendium, we called it Parvaz. So I did this, and then I started translating poetry, and that is where, you know, it was very, very daunting. So I picked up a subject which was a very famous long poem of 320 cantos called Musaddas-e-Hali. It was written by Maulana Altaf Hussain Hali 120 years ago, and it was about ebb and tide in Islam. So it was a poetic rendering of, you know, literally today it's so relevant because it showed, you know, what Islam was and what we Muslims have done to the religion. So it was a scathing criticism, and this was the book that came out. It was The Ebb and Tide of Islam. And then I did, and then I got into this, what became a passion with me, and that was Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. And I found that from his Tarjumanul Quran, translation of his Quran, to his epistolary collection, Mubarak Khatir, the letters he wrote from prison, which were amazing letters, absolutely riveting accounts, extremely personal, to his book, his long article on the poet, on the Sufi saint Sarmad. And I did it in this form, the Rubaiyat of Sarmad, including his. So it began with short stories, poetry, prose, poetry, prose, short stories, and essays. So this really marked my effort to bring Urdu through English to the wider circulation. And as Nabanita Ji said so rightly, and I remember, those words will always resonate with me. This continuous fear that, you know, Urdu is a language that people are just not learning. And Urdu is a language which really, what is the future, you know, for the generations? They would like to read Urdu in the Nagari script, or they'd like to read Urdu in the Roman script. So, you know, with that fear, this was a sort of a mission and a passion. So I thought what I'll do today, if I have 5 more minutes, what I'll do today is to give you, I brought one sample each, but we may not have time for that. So I'd like to read to you one little sample from here, and it is a story of Ismat Apa. It is called Geda, and she always writes from the lens of a little girl, and it's so difficult to translate Ismat. Since all of you have probably read Quilt, or a lot of people have read Quilt, I just want to. So this is a little girl who's a little servant girl who's extremely, you know, all her stories are full of sexuality. and the sexuality of a child who's just bursting, you know, and the whole thing is expressed in such earthy language. And so here is Genda, and Genda was a child bride. So and there is no pathos about being a child bride. She was just a child bride, and now she's, you know, she's playing games. The husband died within a year of her being married. She doesn't know what marriage meant. She doesn't know what the death of the husband meant. And so she says, with a deep sigh, Genda said, who should a widow dress herself for? Now she's a 9-year-old girl saying this. Widow, I said. Ismat Appa always wrote in the first person singular. Widow, I said, wiping a piece of red brick that I was grinding for sindoor on my shirt. Widow? What else? Alas, I'm a widow. I almost felt as if Genda was proud of her widowhood. And what am I? I said, dying of envy. You, she said with a contemptuous smile, you're a virgin. Here, she was making fun of me. My heart sank. Genda always held me in contempt. Why can't I ever equal her? Why can't I be as daring? Last Baisakhi she got married. Clad in beautiful red garments, she became the undisputed owner of several glittering silver ornaments. For days she walked around tinkling her ankles, and me, I was not even in the running. Either I was gaping at her or following her like a curious kitten, counting her bangles, arranging her ghungroos, or running to lift the corner of her dupatta trimmed with false tinsel, if it happened to trail on the ground. So she brings out in the relationship with these two little girls, Genda and me being Ismat, you know, she full of envy for this girl who's full of sexuality, and then the story, it is an epiphany, you know, the story has a turn. Now, I also want to just quickly do this Sarmad for you, because Sarmad is, it is a long essay by Maulana Azad, and it is about this Dara Shikoh. I think this morning Bushir talked to you and he may have delved into literature and so on. Now, Sarmad basically was he was the mentor of Dara Shikoh. And if you know that the grave of Sarmad is near Nizamuddin, right next to the grave of Maulana Azad. And Azad, you know him as an ascetic, you know him as a translator and a commentator of the Quran, but you don't know the many faceted personality of this man. And here he writes about the mullah, and I quote, in Alamgir, that is Aurangzeb, in Alamgir's eyes, Sarmad's greatest crime was his closeness to Dara Shikoh. He needed an excuse for ordering his execution. And then listen to this. In Asia, politics has always used religion to camouflage its designs. Many political sentences were given the guise of religious heresies. Therefore, when no other excuse could be found, it was declared that nakedness was against the accepted Islamic practice. Sarmad used to go around naked. Some of the faqirs, some of the Sufis used to go around naked. The above rubai was declared as a denial of Miraj. So the mullah asked, despite your wisdom and knowledge, why have you chose nakedness? And Sarmad answered, what can I do? The devil is on me. And he recited this extempore rubai. And the rubai is, my tall beloved has dwarfed me. His wine cup eyes have snatched my senses. He is in my arms, yet I seek him. What a strange thief. He has stripped me of my garment. I want to tell you, just the last thing that I want to say in this intervention is that in bringing Urdu into English and bringing Urdu to the audience, my sister, Mrs. Zakia Zahir, who's sitting here, and I, together we have evolved a whole, and basically she is the mastermind, I've just helped her. We have brought poetry, in a sense, in a performance before an audience of Urdu poetry to an audience in Chennai. And they flow with the cadence and with the rhythm and with the beauty of the poetry. We use a little bit of English, we use music, we use dance, and we bring, for example, we bring Faiz Ahmed Faiz to an audience who would never even have thought of accessibility to something like, it's so unusual. So I feel that we have to use innovative ways in order not to let this enormously rich, this very, something which has incredible depth, in order for it not to wither away, in order for it not to die, we must keep reinventing ourselves and reinventing ourselves as translators. I feel that if I'm very busy, I'm a member of Planning Commission, I'm doing so many things, but my one big love is to continuously keep bringing what I feel are the gems of Urdu literature in poetry, in prose, in essays, in novels, in short stories, through the medium of translation from English, so that this can enrich the lives which would be otherwise completely inaccessible. Thank you.